I've got 13 games here that I have been playing recently, and this isn't to tell you all about what I've been playing. It's to show you some games that might interest you, or maybe you've played them and you can tell me a little more about them. The majority of them have a solo mode. I've played a few of them as social games. Going to tell you all about each one as fast as possible, okay? Because I'll do detailed reviews in separate videos. Let's get started, shall we? Howdy and welcome. I'm Mike, your board gaming every dude, and this is what I have been playing this spring. Look, I love playing board games, especially solo, but one thing that I notice is I don't fly through games quite as fast as I see some other creators being able to do. I just can't do it. And so I move a little slower. I don't have a game a day done, but hopefully you can enjoy some of these with me. We're going to start with the small boxes. So one of them is actually a social game. It's called Fill in the Game, and I got this from Origins in Columbus, Ohio last year. Not this year, not the most recent one. Got it from the publisher, super nice guy. And basically what this is it's very similar to the game Quelf, if you're familiar, where everybody at the table, they draw a card, and it requires you to do either a dare or something silly. But what's different about this one, if you look at these cards, is it's called fill in the blank because there's usually a blank for you to fill in to make it unique. So, for example, this one is rhyme time. So if you get this card, then you would read this to someone else. You would pick another person that has to do it, and you would say, write a poem about blank. So I would say, write a poem about saunas. I don't know, that just came to my head. Weird. Minimum 5 lines. Read it out loud when it's ready. If that person completes that task, they get to keep the card for points. Some cards are worth more points depending on how challenging it is. So it's for a goofy, fun time to loosen up. It is not for everybody. I enjoyed it. I had more fun when I played Quelf, but it was also a totally different group. So I would need to play this with the same group to kind of give a measurement on that. But goofy fun time. Got it. Get out of here. Tinderblox. Tinderblox, pretty, am I supposed to say the designers? I threw it safely to a safe place. It's too late. It's too late. I'm going to try and do it from here forward. I'm sorry. You deserve more respect. I tossed it gently. It's carpet. It's a special spot reserved for games. Stop judging me. Okay, Tinderblox, 2 to 6 players. You can play it solo too because it also works cooperatively. I found out. Look, if you don't put the publisher on, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, you can play it cooperatively or solo. It's reverse Jenga where you're building a fire. You got these little wood thingies, wood and fire, yellow fire and red fire, and you are stacking them with a pair of tweezers. Boop, boop, boop. So what you do is you flip over a card. It tells you on your turn, you have to take this piece and you have to place it somewhere. So you have to place a red one on top of a bunch of other pieces, right? And it even tells you the orientation, whether it has to be vertical or horizontal, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'd have to scan through all these. But you're building a campfire. So again, reverse Jenga. Next person takes a turn, flips over the cards, and they have to stack it in a certain way. If your piece falls off or you knock it over, you're out. The game keeps going till you run through the entire deck, and whoever's left over wins. So you can also play it cooperatively, where everybody only wins if you stack it without it falling over, which is what ended up happening by accident when I played it with a group. You're out of here. I'm going to see. No discrimination. It's a tin box. I'm not going to throw any more games. All right. I'm not going to throw any more games. Respect. I like them. That's why I threw them. All right. Isaac Myers Expressions. I really wanted to tell you about this. 2 to 5 players. Isaac Myers, I hope you're watching this part. Hopefully I can message you for it. Barn Made Games. See, I got the designer and the publisher because you put it on the box. Thank you for that. This is not a solo game. You'll notice the first 4 here are not solo. Stick with me. Solo gamers like party games too. This is a cooperative game. This is of the genre maybe that you would put something like, what's that game where you don't talk, everybody's talking about it, you don't talk, and it's a trick-taking game. I can't remember what it's called. Put it in the comments. You know what I'm talking about. It's in that genre. where you have cards in your hand that have information. You're not allowed to say what's in your hand, and you have to work together to try to accomplish a goal with your cards, and you're giving information by laying down cards. So what's the goal? The goal is to achieve harmony. So on one side of the table you have harmony. These are the good cards. When you accomplish your goal, they go into harmony. When you don't accomplish your goal, cards go into agony over here. At the end of the game, if there are more cards in agony than harmony, you lose. If there's more cards in harmony than agony, you win. You all win together, you all lose together. So what's in the cards? Well, you have a number of cards in your hand. I believe 4 at any time. And each turn, you're allowed. The nice thing is, there's all kinds of table talk, all right? You are talking and strategizing and working together. The only thing you're not allowed to do is say what's in your hand. That's it. Because that's what you do. When you lay down a card, you're communicating. So, for example, this is a yellow 8. I can't say that's what I have. But our goal, right, is to get, I want people to guess this card, guess that I have this in my hand. That's the goal of the game, is to get another person to guess. So what do you do on your turn? You lay down a card to give information. Depending how you lay it down is what information's there. If I lay it down facing this way, it means the 8 is the highest yellow I have in my hand. That gives information. It lets them know, oh, he has another yellow and it's less than 8. And there's other ways to give information. You can say, I have more of this number in my hand. There's only one of each number in each color. See, I was going to do this video fast and I talk too much. I can't do fast videos. Stay with me. We're going to have fun. Oh my goodness. All right, anyway. So this would mean I have other 8s. So on another turn, someone can guess what I have. We're getting to the guessing part. Don't worry about it. The other thing you communicate is you can say, this is the last of this color I have. So if I put that facing that way, and the little icon tells you, then it lets everybody know, don't ask me about yellows. I don't have yellows, okay? I don't have yellows. Or this one lets people know, if I face it this way, this icon lets people know that this is the lowest I have. So this would be like, look, 8 is the lowest yellow I have. Well, what does that let them know? He's got a 9 or 10. Well, if there's already a 9 or 10 on the board, process of elimination, we know, oh, he's got the 9, if there's already 10 down. So first thing you do on your turn, you give information. Then you make a guess. So you look at another player, pick any other player, and you ask them, do you have blah, right? So maybe they've given information, and I'm like, I think they have a green 7. So I ask them, do you have a green 7? If they do, they put a card into harmony. It's great. And then I get to put a card from my hand into harmony. We are a cooperative group. If I was wrong, though, then whoever has the green 7 sadly has to put it into agony. And then I have to put one of my cards in agony. And then it goes to the next player. That's how you play the game. I enjoyed this so much. This is absolutely a keeper in my library. I will pull this out again. I didn't really know what to expect of this game. I'll be completely honest. When the publisher sent it, it's because I like the publisher. I think he's cool. But I was like, it doesn't have a solo mode. I don't get to play group games super often. And I was like, is it going to be nice enough? I don't know. I wasn't sure about the theme. If you see this and you like cooperative group games, get it. I highly recommend. This is a banger. Thank you. Thank you for sending it to me. And yes, that was provided by the publisher. No, I don't care. That's my honest thoughts. I care about you. Okay? When I say I don't care. I tossed it on the floor. I'm sorry. It's such a soft floor. With these small boxes, I do that. I'm going to get fired by somebody, even though I work for myself. Stay cool. This is the next to last, of the party games. This is another banger. No, this one was not provided by the publisher. See, I do it both ways. This is by Yellow Games, designed by Julian Sentis. All right, thank you so much for putting it. 3 to 7 players. This is a fun, stressful game. I've played it 3-4 times now, at least 3 times, different groups. And it is where you have dice and cards. You have interrogators, one on your left and one on your right. If it's my turn, there is a timer. That's their job, is they flip this timer up to 4 times. You got a little tracker thing to help you track it. Don't worry about it. What that means is basically you've got, if this is 30 seconds, you've got a full 2 minutes for the first round, a minute and a half for the next round, and a minute for the final round, if I got it right, okay? It gets harder and harder each round. Each round, everybody gets 1 turn, and then you do the next round, everybody gets a turn, and then the final round, everybody gets a turn. It's a little harder each time. Person on my left is going to be the verbal interrogator. They are going to ask me a question like, what company published this game? Well, hopefully you have the box somewhere out here. Let me use it. It's a good one, but let me do. Okay, what's the last letter of the word compass? So they ask me that, and I have to say S. If I say that, good, I answered that first question correct. They ask the next one. The further I go down, the more points I'm going to get. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, so they ask their question, immediately after they ask it, comes the written interrogator, and they say a sand hill. Well, let me pick an easier one. That's a hard one. A young woman. Well, what on earth? Well, when it's the written, it means the answer is a 3 or 4 letter word. Yes, it's a 3 or 4 letter word, and you have to spell the answer with dice. So you have a spoken one that you have to answer. So then I'll be like, girl, and they'll be like, no, spell it. So then I have to take the dice and find the right combination to spell it. Meanwhile, as soon as I've answered the verbal asks the next question and keeps going down. As soon as I answer the written goes down, and it just goes back and forth, and you've got the timer. During the first round, you don't have to say flip. It's the timer's job to flip it every time it runs out, okay? The second round gets a little harder. You're asked it's the same exact setup, except the timer will not flip the timer until you say flip. So if you miss it, if you forget to say flip, so you're answering the questions and watching the timer, so you can say flip at just the right time. The third round, the timer is hidden, and it will only get flipped when you say flip. And if you don't, you just lose the time. So you can probably tell, which I have to be careful with that. I guess I have to be careful when I favor games, but I'm learning what to do. Banger. Absolutely love this. Pull it out again. Play it with the right group. What I found was nice was... No, I'm not going to throw it. What I found was nice was we ended up, like, you're cheering each other on. Even though you're competing for the most points, you want the other people to succeed. So when they're not getting the answer, you're like... You'll maybe even give them hints, maybe. Because everybody wanted everybody to do well. And I like that. I like when a game brings that out. It's still getting tossed on the ground, but not as hard. Let's get to some solo games. Didn't think I would love this one. Creature Comforts. I've now played it solo and multiplayer. I love it that much. This is up there with Honeybuzz for me, and Wingspan and Wyrmspan. This is Kids Table Board Games, KTBG, and it's designed by Roberta Taylor. Roberta Taylor, if you ever see this, thank you. My goodness. What a lovely design. The art, too, is adorable. Art by Shauna J.C. Tenney. And this game, this is a worker placement dice drafting game where the goal is you're a bunch of little critters preparing for winter. So you start in the spring, and then you work into summer and then fall to gather resources to craft things for your cozy little home so that you have the coziest home for winter. So it's competitive. You win. Whoever has the most points wins. When you're playing solo, nothing changes. Absolutely nothing. It basically is beat your own score, but it doesn't feel like it because the way they frame it is they give you special goals, like have the most cozy comforts in your home or have the most cooking comforts in your home. And that gives you a special title. So by the time you finish it, even though you are trying to beat your own score each time, you're also trying to get different titles, and it just felt different for me. It felt a little more like I'm going to play this by the fireplace with my tea and my donuts and my sweater, or whatever you have, crumpets, I don't know, to enjoy. So solo was easy to learn. You don't have to change anything. I don't want to show you everything. That's not what this video is. I'm putting an overhead shot so you get to see the whole game. But what it is on your turn, everybody has 2 dice. Their dice that they own, you roll them. and you know what those numbers are. So those get locked. After you know what those numbers are, you place workers. Everybody does this at the same time. You all place workers on the different action spaces. So let's say, and each action space has a price that requires the dice, right? So if I place a worker here, then what that means is I'm going to have to place a dice of 3 or more there in order to pay for that action. So when you place the worker, you're just saying, I want to do this. Later, you come back and place dice. But remember, you only rolled 2 dice. You get 4 critters to place in 4 action spaces. What's up? Well, that means you have partial information. So I know I have these 2 dice. And then I'm kind of gambling, guessing that I can take these other actions based on the community dice that are not rolled until after everybody places on their action spaces. There are ways to mitigate, like plus and minus boo-boo tokens. I call them boo-boo tokens. Maybe they're band-aids, but we call them boo-boos. Thank you very much. To add 1 to the dice or minus it. Then comes the dice drafting, where the community dice are rolled. One person takes their turn. They assign their dice and the community dice to their spaces, and then they take the action. So if I put them here, I get to take 2 rocks. I get to take 3 apples. I get to take 1 recipe, or I get to build 1 comfort addition. Something like that. Then it goes to the next player, and they use their 2 dice. The community dice stay the same every time. So they finish their turn, community dice go back, they don't change. Next person goes all the way around. Of course, when you're doing it solo, you just take your turn. I'm talking too long. This is fantastic. It says ages 8 and up. This game will buzz your little brain out. Easy to learn, yes. Easy. I would put this at the low midweight. This is a midweight game. Low midweight. While the art is cozy, I can see an 8-year-old, as the game progresses, the strategy is surprisingly fantastic. I'm talking too much. It's a cool game. I love it. I need to burn through these. Oh, my Davies. Eila. Eila. I've pretty much confirmed it's Eila. I swear I'm going to have some downsides to say. All right. You know what? I'm going to have some downside. I'm going to have a little more, maybe some nuance to say is better. I want you to know what these games are so you can make a wise decision. This is solo only. Eila and Something Shiny. Ages 12 and up. 30 to 45 minutes per play. It plays in chapters. There's 5 total chapters. Playing this, I felt like it was 1987, and I was at my grandma's playing on the floor with my whatever Tonka toys, with David the Gnome on the TV. That's what this was for me. This is such a warm and fuzzy and beautiful and well done game. So what on earth is it all about? Eila and Something Shiny. You play as Eila, this little bunny. It's a narrative, chapter-driven adventure game where you're making choices, collecting resources to complete missions. So as you play, you have a little storybook for each chapter. I believe it's 5 chapters. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comment. Hey, real quick, if you enjoy this, maybe you enjoy me, please give a like to this video. If you're new, please subscribe. If you're not new, please don't unsubscribe. It's the best way to support me right now to help this channel grow. If you want to support me, and if you don't, I'll see you on the playground, and we'll settle it, whatever. But thank you for that. Okay, Eila and Something Shiny. So you turn over a page in the storybook, there's a little comic, you read it, it tells you what's going on. You are getting these little quests as a new bunny from Grandmother Willow Tree or a gigantic oak tree. It's a grandma tree of some sort. She's very wise, and she sends you out on a little adventure. But something bad and scary happens, and it turns out that there's something shiny way off in the distance that Eila may have to venture out on her own in order to help her grandma tree that gets injured, right? I actually felt, you almost feel a tear when something sad happens to Grandma Tree. And you're like, I'm going to go on this adventure. So how do you go on an adventure? You flip cards. That's it. You flip a card. The card gives you a series of choices. You pick the choice you want. You may not be able to take all the choices because some of them require certain resources. Some of them require certain risks. Whatever you choose, that leads you to the next card. You flip it over. If you had to spend resources, spend them. The next card helps you to collect resources, collect them. It's wonderful. If you couldn't take an option, don't worry. That card gets put back and you get to come back to it later. Some cards get removed permanently once you accomplish them. But every chapter you will have a mission, and it's usually to collect certain things and reach a certain destination to get something done. The timer is, of course, flipping the cards. And the rounds. There's like 3 to 4 rounds. It's been a month since I've played it. But anyway, there is a timer. And you have to accomplish the mission before the timer is out. If you do that, you move on to the next chapter. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm keeping it because, and this was maybe $60 or something for 5 chapters. You can replay the chapters, even though the story will remain the same. There are different ways to play, different routes to take. You won't take all of them in one game. So, work of art. Thank you for making this. I can't throw this one. You know what I need? I have to face the microphone, see, or you won't be able to hear me. I need a table next to me. Poor planning. Excuse me for a moment while I gently put this on the floor. No, it's not going to happen. It's going on the side of the table. It's too heavy. I need to work out. Okay, real quick, I know I teleported you. The games are looking different. The lighting's different. But I just want to tell you about a dear friend of mine, Milena, and she asked if I would do a little shout out for her channel. So if you have children, if you have kids, if you enjoy Minecraft, check out IslandFoxMC on YouTube, and you will have a good time with little Milena. And if you do not like Minecraft, then forget this ever happened. Back to the show. Tir Na Nog by Grand Gamers Guild and Isaac Shalov. I believe there's another. Isaac Shalov and Jason Slingerland. Solo mode by John Brieger and Joe Hopkins, and illustrations by Marlies Berens. There's too many names. I can't do this with every game. Did I do? Yeah, I did it with Eila. Right? Did I say who made it? Jeffrey CCH. I didn't. I'm sorry. And it's by North Star Game Studio. Okay, let's get that credit out there. This one surprised me. I got this off the Kickstarter shelf. I got that Cape Fear Games on the solo shelf. Creature Comforts was gifted by Sir Meeple. Very, very grateful for that. I love it. Tir Na Nog. So I have the Kickstarter version with the deluxe wooden meeples. This is a Celtic storytelling game. I have only played it solo. I would play it, you know, as a group game as well. But how it plays is you are a storyteller. And there is a grid at the center of the table with different lands, different domains they're made by cards. And each card has its own domain and its own point value and its own, some of them have special abilities that you're able to use. So you have this grid in the middle, and that's like your market that you're going to select from. It's a worker placement game. Then you have your tableau in front of you. You also have 3 objectives that are going to give you bonus points. What is your goal? Is basically your goal is to collect the right cards to make a certain pattern with the lands in order to collect the most points. It plays fairly quickly. I did get it done in under 45 minutes, which is amazing for me, right? If it says 30 to 45, that's probably an hour and a half for me. Not with this one. Your solo opponent has a certain priority system, so when it's their turn, they collect a card, they place a worker a certain place, they collect a card, and they score for points at the end of the game. So they are competing with you, and there is a varying difficulty level for the solo opponent. So what do you do on your turn? You have so many workers in your stockpile. Let's say it's 4. It might be 3. You place your worker in between 2 cards. What that means is, for right now, no one else can place their worker in that space between those 2 cards. So if you have a 4x3 grid and you place it between these 2 in this corner, you know, then those 2 are yours. Then the AI opponent or other player places a worker in their spot, and then you go and place between 2 cards, claiming all these areas. Then comes the card selection time. So then you select one of the cards touching one of your workers. You take that card and you get to put it into your hand. Then let's say The other opponent, they take one of theirs touching. You go back and forth until you have taken one card for each worker placed. Then you're able to play cards into your tableau, and some of those come with special abilities that activate immediately, or when you take the card, or with ongoing special abilities that gain you more points at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you score for how many of a certain land is touching, or any of many different things. You're creating patterns. I hope that made sense. I decided that I love this one. So, good job, Tir Na Nog. Can I pick something I didn't love so much? Yes. Spoiler! Sleeping Gods Primeval Peril by Ryan, it's script. Ryan Laukat. I'm sorry. It's Laukat, and this is Red Raven Games. So this was originally a Kickstarter bonus or add-on exclusive. I can't remember what we call them, or a game found add-on that was turned into the full game. And I do want to say this is an excellently designed game. There were no problems with it. If you played Sleeping Gods, then you would understand how this game works. What you have, and I've only played it solo. Can you play this one multiplayer? 1 to 2 players. Okay, there is a 2-player mode. I can't tell you anything about that one. So you have a whole crew plus a captain, and you have a crew of 4 characters, and you control all of them for every game. The story, it's like a 1920s kind of setting, and you are in the jungle going down this river on a riverboat in order to complete a quest. Somebody in your group ends up being stolen by a monster, if I remember correctly, and they get flown off and away. So you're on a quest to try to save them on this riverboat. But as you go through this riverboat, you encounter towns and villages and monsters that you have to fight, people that you trade with, and you're gathering information to find out how do you get to this place of this legendary mythical creature that seems to have stolen one of your crewmates' mother. I believe it's the mother that gets kidnapped. And you're going to face off against that beast and to save them. To do that, you are flipping through a book. Your board is the book where you flip through. And as you go up the river, there are certain numbered encounters where you flip into a storybook and you go to that number. It tells you something about that story. It usually gives you a choice like, do you want to battle this, or do you want to run, or do you want to trade or barter or buy, that kind of thing. If you enjoy that, it's wonderful, right? Your characters get to collect special items that are able to help you to be able to heal from damage, or to build something, or to trade something. You collect items, you collect special cards. You have health, you have dice that you use for your skill checks and your battles, all of that stuff. I didn't love it, not because of the design. Oh, and your boat can take damage too, and have it can help you as well. You know, you lose health, or if anybody dies, then it's game over. If you successfully make it through the map, then good, you go to the next map. Anyway, and there are lots of maps. There's lots of gameplay in this. It's only like $35. You get a lot of game from this. What I didn't love is the story. The story, for me, the characters were flat, where when I played Eila in Something Shiny, that was not flat at all. Those characters were real. Where this, if the story doesn't matter, like the character development, I guess is the thing. The story is good. The character development, they're fairly flat, traditional, what I would expect in like an Indiana Jones thing. And that's fine. I don't mean to dig at it. But it wasn't enough for me. I like to see character development. So, because of that, I will probably trade it on Sleeping Gods Primeval Peril. But that's the only reason. It plays really well. If you're into an adventure, you stay up there as well. Okay. Trekking the National Parks. This was sent to me by the publisher. I thought it had a solo mode, and it does not. It's a 2 to 5 player game. So I have played it at 6 players. Yeah. But I'm still going to talk about it. If you're looking for, there is a fan-made solo mode. This is the 2nd edition. I cannot confirm at this point if the fan-made solo mode is adjustable to the second edition. So check that out before you buy it for solo. Check it on Board Game Geek. It's by Underdog Games, designed by a person. It's won all kinds of awards. I know that. The designer, it's by Charlie Bink. There we go. So in trekking the national parks, you are, I think they're the ones that did Trekking Through Time later as well, but this is like their foundation game. The art isn't beautiful, it's not incredible, it's not lovely, but it gets the job done. So what are you doing? You are all moving little trekkers around on the board. So you're moving to different locations, and it's not dice-based, it is all card-based. You're moving to different locations to collect little like mementos at each location, and also to camp at national parks, and then just to collect like a picture or something. I forget exactly how that works for some of the parks. Anyway, so what do you do on your turn? You have a hand of cards that have numbers and icons on them. The numbers have to do with movement. So if I want to move 2 locations, I have to place a card of 2 down, or a 1 and a 1. The sum total has to be the exact amount that you're going to move. So you can move, if you land on a space with another player, that player gets bumped back to the starting position in the like Midwest area. It's like along the east, it's like Ohio. Somewhere around that area, you know, which is funny. Like, oh no, you're getting sent back to Ohio. Something like that. Maybe it's Indiana. But anyway, your goal is to get to these locations. If you get to a new location the first time, you get to collect a stone. Those stones are worth points at the end of the game. They're of different colors. The more you have of one color, the more points you'll have. You get rewarded for having the most of any type of color, a first place and a second place ranking. The other way that you get points is by the icons on your cards. So maybe it's something like a boot or a campfire or a bear paw. When you get to a park, any of the parks on the board, there are a rotating amount that are featured. So there are 3 that have a red frame, and they are permanently there for the game. So it's like your big parks, Yellowstone and so on. Yellowstone's maybe Everglades, those kind of parks. They're permanently there. Everybody can visit those parks. But then there's 3 others that rotate through the game, throughout the different rounds, that you actually collect. So if one of the 3 parks listed is close to you, you want to travel to that park. And when you get there, there's going to be a price that you have to pay to visit that park. And it might be like 2 campfires and a boot. You have to be able to discard those symbols, those cards from your hand, and then you collect that park card, keep it with you for points at the end of the game. And they all have fun, interesting facts on them. And the story, the family story is nice. It's a family story of these publishers where the parents would take the families trekking through the national parks. And it was a wonderful pastime, and the publishers wanted to share that experience with others. So that was pretty cool. The other thing you can do is camp out at the permanent national parks. And you only have, I think, 3 camping tokens. So you can only camp out at each one once. And to do that same thing, you have to pay a price by discarding cards from your hands that match the symbols on the cards. Then you get to camp there. Put your little tent. Everybody can place a tent on those ones to share them and get points at the end of the game. So I found this was a good lighter weight family game is where I would put that one. So I might keep it in my library, even though I don't love the art. Again, it's good art. It's good art. But when compared to things like Eila and Tir Na Nog, and even Sleeping God's art is fantastic. You know, it's tough competition there. Okay. The Thing. I have never seen The Thing. I will never probably ever see The Thing. From what I hear about it, it's just too gruesome for me. So why am I playing the game? Isn't that a good question? The game isn't gruesome, right? I just like social deduction games, so I have The Thing. I played this at 4 players. By the end of it, we decided it's probably better at higher player counts. So it says 4 to 8. I would say this is a 5 to 8 player game. Probably 5 to 7, honestly, but I'm guessing. 4 players, it was fun, but the tension wasn't there. One of you is The Thing. As the game continues, another person might be converted or infected into The Thing. The Thing is trying to infect everybody, and if that team, either you by yourself as The Thing, or others that get infected, accomplish that, then you win. The rest of the team is trying to accomplish the mission of getting to the helicopter to get out of there. But you have to make your way through this facility in Antarctica first, and you have to battle the thing at least 3 times successfully before you can make it outside and get to the helicopter and survive. So quite the challenge. So as this goes, there's a sense of paranoia as you have to work together. You have to work together to explore rooms, to move your little token to a room, explore the room, and there's always a surprise. So it might be a good surprise. You explore the room and yay, we found some rope. That's great. The rope can be used for a couple different things. One of the options is you can use it to tie up a player for the next round. And what that means is they get locked into a room where they are not able to take any action. So if you suspect they're the thing, you may want to use the rope for that. Other things are like the flashlight, which helps you to be able to see in rooms that don't have power. There's all kinds of different things. But when you explore the room, you also might uncover the thing. Not the player, but the actual token gets put on the board, and you have to battle it and survive it. Once you do that, you're able to move into the next section. And there's, again, 3 sections, and you do have a timer that's also counting down as you progress through to try to make it there. So, nice, fun sense of paranoia. At 4 players, the paranoia wasn't enough. We could kind of tell who was the thing. Not 100%, but we could narrow it down to, 2 people. So it wasn't quite as tense as Dark Moon was at 4 players. But gentle into the night we go. Gentle into the night we go. Oh boy. Stay with me. Expeditions, a sequel to Scythe. This is from Stonemaier Games and designed by Jamie Stegmaier, right? Welcome back, Jamie. Glad to have you back. Yeah, Jamie Stegmaier. And the world building still by Jakub. I hope I said that right. It's Jacob or Jakub, and I don't know. Rosalski. So, I love the Scythe world. I enjoyed Scythe, particularly Rise of Fenris, because I like the campaign story. This is not a campaign, but I could see them going there with it. I don't have the expansion yet. This is 1 to 5 players. I've played it solo, 60 to 90 minute playtime. Pretty easy setup. This is not Scythe. It's in the world of Scythe. This is an exploration game where Scythe is a area control game. This one you are exploring, but kind of the same idea, where in Scythe you're trying to complete a number of objectives in order to bring about the end of the game. Same thing here. You're trying to complete, I think, up to 4 objectives. I believe it's 4 objectives, and that brings about the end of the game. You're working against your solo opponent. Your solo opponent has a priority list on an Atoma card deck that is flipped over. It tells you what they're going to do on their turn. Primarily, they are blocking spaces and taking resources and cards away from you in order to make it more challenging, while also scoring points. So you are battling for points at the end of the game. They are also completing objectives. So they are putting stars onto the board as well to show that they have completed objectives. You're racing to beat them there. But just because you finish the game doesn't mean that you win. It's still based on points. Points are money, just like in Scythe. At the end of the game, you convert all your stuff to a bunch of coins. Whoever has the most money wins. So what is going on? Well, this is set after the events of Scythe, and you are exploring into the mysterious north, where this mysterious corruption is spreading across a new land. The beginning part, the southern part of the land where you start, is revealed. And those all have action spaces where you can place a worker or you can place your mech that you're moving around. This isn't a battle game like Scythe. Even though Scythe was a battle of attrition, I get it. This is an exploration. So you get to move your Atoma and you get to collect resources or take some kind of action based on the location. Then the central part of this northern expanse and the northernmost part, the tiles are flipped upside down, so similar to Nemesis. And when you step onto it, then you get to flip it over, retrieve a special map token, which can help you complete objectives or gain points or allow you to trade it for something, depending on cards in your hand. Meanwhile, so as you're exploring, you're trying to go further and further in to collect new resources. You use those resources to complete objectives for things like upgrading your mech, or there are things called meteorites, and I believe you meld you meld them onto your mech. So an objective could be to have, say, 4 upgrades. So as you're traveling around, there are cards linked with certain locations. And some of those cards are items, some of them are upgrades, some of them are, I want to call it events. I don't know if it's called events in the game. But anyway, different types of cards. But say it's an upgrade. If you're able to collect the resources to pay for that upgrade, then you get to attach that upgrade to your mech card. And that upgrade gives you an ongoing ability as well as points in the game, as well as it lets you accomplish an objective if you get 4 of them. Same thing with melding. Melding does a special thing as well. If you can pay the resources to get that melding item, put it onto your mech, you get up to 4 of those, you get to complete another objective. Well, that would be 2 objectives done out of the 4. Another might be to have 8 cards free in your hand. That doesn't include the cards that are upgrades or melding. You have those free, and on your turn, you get to complete an objective. It is not easy because you collect cards by exploring around the board. Meanwhile, your AI opponent or other players are moving around, blocking the spaces because you can't share a space with another mech. The AI opponent has 2 mechs, you have 1, and they get more and more challenging as the rounds continue throughout the game. You're also able to create a tableau where you lay a card from your hand onto a tableau, and that might have like a worker icon on it. It might have something where the ability is activated immediately and then you're done with the card, or it's something you can lay down, and if you have a worker of a color to match that card, say it's a green worker on there, you place your worker on that on your turn, and you're able to take that ability. The worker stays on that card until you take a round to pass, in which you retrieve all of your workers back into your board. The way you take a turn is interesting in that all you do is you have a little cube and 3 options. You place your cube on the option you do not want. So one of those options might be to move. One of them might be to gather. And one of them is something else. Whichever one you don't want to do, you put the cube on and you must take the other 2 actions. On your next turn, you have to move the cube so that you're blocking another one but taking the other 2 until you pass. When you pass, then you move the cube, and when you refresh, you get to take all 3 actions one time, and then you go back to moving your cube around. So, simple selection, keeping it in my library. I've enjoyed my plays, nice and challenging. On to our final games. All right, also by Stonemaier and solo mode Atoma Factory, we have Wyrmspan, 1 to 5 players, and this is designed by Connie Vogelman, arts by Clementine Campardo, and this is, of course, based on the system of Wingspan. I will say, though, this is its own game, and I appreciated that. It's not merely a reskin. So, how does it play? It's sideways! Why don't you tell me these things? Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to point my finger at you. Ages 14 and up, 90 minutes. I played this probably in an hour to an hour and a half. I actually played this much faster than Wingspan. It just has a nice flow to it. So what you're doing in this one, if you've played Wingspan, you'll have an idea. You are trying to create a habitat for worms or for dragons to nest in. And you have baby dragons and mid-sized dragons and adult dragons, right? So what you're doing on your board is first you have to excavate these caves. There are 3 different types of caves, from like amethyst and violet and something else, right? So like a lower one and a higher one. You're excavating these caves to create safe spaces so that you can then place your dragons in there so they can live nicely. And each of the dragons, just like Wingspan, has its own details, its own lore, all that kind of stuff to go behind it, and special abilities. So what you have to do first is collect resources to collect a cave that you can place onto your habitat. Now that you have that cave, you can collect the resources so that you can attract one of the dragons out for selection or in your hand to place in that cave. Once a dragon is in a cave, then whatever cave you put down, it had a special ability, that's no longer active. The dragon that now inhabits it that's the action that you take. So you're trying to create a chain of actions. You're building an engine in order to get the most points. How do you get points? Well, by placing caves and ultimately dragons, by completing round objectives, which are randomly different for every round. So it might be whoever has the most caves gets this many points, second gets this many points, or whoever has the most of the large dragons gets this many points, whoever has the most eggs, whatever it is, right? You get points from the round objectives. You also get points from the Dragon Guild. The Dragon Guild is a rondel that you move a token around, and based on the space that you land on, you get certain resources, and some spaces also allow you to get a very special reward or complete a certain duty in order to get something special to help you, right? So you've got the rondel going over here, you got your tableau here, you got round objectives. Your dragons are worth a certain amount of points. Eggs that you collect are worth a certain amount of points. Similar to Wyrmspan, right? But they made it its own. The art is beautiful. And the theme is still, what's nice is it's dragons, but it's still very cozy, which, I think that's a good word to use for it. It's cozy dragons that you are trying to help and protect. There are different ones. There are aggressive dragons that may not do well if they're placed next to other dragons. There are baby dragons that have very special abilities if you're able to pay the price for having them. So yeah, Wyrmspan does it replace Wingspan? No, because it's a different game. They play differently enough that I think they each have their own space, but if you're drawn to this theme more, just go straight for it. Finally, Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. I've only played this solo, and this is my first Stan Kordonsky game, Stanislav Kordonsky, and this is from Peacekeeper Games. I want to tell him personally, thank you for this. This is a work of art. Easy to learn, hard to master. That's all I can say for this. 1 to 4 players. I have played it solo. The solo AI is intelligent and challenging. It adjusts. It is a deck, so you flip over a card, or sort of. You actually slowly reveal actions. So there are several rows on the AI card, and you have another card on top, so you can't see what the next action is. So when it's their turn, you lift it up, and it gives you a list of priorities based on how you play. So it reacts to you. You do whatever it tells you to do. You take your turn, then they take their turn. You slide the card up to reveal what the next thing is. So priority-based system, reactive to you. What's this game about? It's historical, about Kiev, and about a monarch. What was his name? The place is Kiev in Rus. I'm just going to read this because it's interesting. Following the death of Vladimir the Great in 1015, the people need a capable ruler to inspire and lead them. As one of Vladimir's children, you are embroiled in a fierce power struggle to win the hearts of the people and rule as the next Grand Prince or Princess of Kiev. I really enjoy this. So, it's a realm-building game, area control. Whoever has the most points wins at the end of the game, but how on earth do you play? Well, you've got this map of the land of Kiev with its different cities, and each of those lands has a resource on it for you to collect. So you collect resources in order to do certain things, right? So you have advisors, and you start out with, I believe, you start out with 4 advisors, and the game is only, I think, 4 rounds long, and you get an advisor on rounds 3 and 4. So you end up with a total, I don't remember if you start with 3 or 4, but whatever. You add 2. Oh my goodness, you add 2. So you get more actions as the game continues. So you have a strategy board. On your turn, you start with the strategy phase. You place one of your advisors on an action that you want to take. It might be to tax the local people, which is going to allow you to collect a resource from a land that you rule, or at least that you have some influence on. If you don't rule it, then it costs more for you to take that action as opposed to if you roll it. So you can tax, or you can place an advisor to move. You have your main character. You can select, I believe there are 6 of his children. Maybe there's only 5, but you play as one of them, and they have their own miniature on the board. So you can move them. You also have soldiers that you're able to place on the board. You're able to muster and place them, so you can choose to move soldiers. Those soldiers can be moved so that they can battle other players' soldiers and dominate the different lands. The more lands you rule, the more points you have, and you win the game. That's the point, is to dominate. You can also take the action to muster, which allows you to place troops from your pool onto the board. You can also place an advisor to scheme, which allows you to collect a scheme card that has a special ability that you can discard at any time in order to use it. Unless it's an ongoing ability, then I suppose you place that down and you just can continue to benefit from it. So those are useful. You can also place an advisor to battle. I'm sorry, I was going to say scheme, to attack another player. That's right, you have to place an advisor for that, and then you engage in battle. You're also able to build. That's right, you get to build different buildings, like you can place a church, which allows you to convert one of the enemy's players to be one of your players, but you also are able to gain points by placing these buildings. So the higher up you are in each track, so say you place a building, you get to go up on a track, and the more buildings you have, the higher you go on that track, the more points it is worth. So you place a worker, then your opponent, AI or real person, places one of their workers or advisors, and then you place your advisor and they place their advisor. And here's the tricky thing. Each of the advisors has a number. The number is both their power and their, I'm going to call it advantage. I think it's called their advantage. So when you place it down in the strategy phase, the higher the number, the more power. Well, what does that mean? Well, on your strategy board, there are several different spaces under each option. So if I pick attack, the highest space lets me attack twice. But if I'm the next one down, I only get to attack once. The next one down, I only get to attack once, and I have to spend coin to be able to do it. Whoever has the most power is at the top. So if I have a 5, I'm at the top. If they have a 2, they're at the next one, right? So you have advisors of different power levels. 1, 2, 3. Is there a 4? There might be a 4 and 5. There's 2 2s, I believe. And then, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Something like that. 5 is the highest. So when you place them, you're considering power. But it flips around when you get to the next phase, when you take your actions. So the strategy phase is done. Now we take our actions. But in what order? Priority order. That's what it is. So maybe it's not advantage, it's priority. Now those numbers have a different meaning, because number 1 is the one you resolve first. So it's my turn. I must resolve advisor 1 first. I do that. Next player resolves advisor 1 first, and then advisor 2 and 2. So even though power in the strategy phase is worth the most, in the action phase, it's actually worth the least, or they go last, right? So that is a real brain burner. So only 4 rounds ends up really drawing out because you're enjoying this strategy so much. Simple to learn, hard to master. Rurik, Dawn of Kiev. I am in love with it. I want to play every game that Kordonsky makes. Thank you for staying with me. Did any of these appeal to you? Let me know which ones you have questions on, which one you want to see more of, which one you know more about, because I guarantee you know more about these than I do. I'm just a face here talking to you because I enjoy your company and doing this. I love you all. I'm going to see you next time.